One of the more interesting things that you can do with Publisher is insert social media. So think about things like blogs, comments, ratings, even YouTube videos. So in this particular demo, I want to show you how you can insert a blog or insert comments into a page of a web-based training course. So, today we think about courses really as asynchronous, sort of isolated experiences where a subject matter expert or some other expert within the organization packages up that expertise and delivers it to the learner population for them to consume and digest at their own pace and wherever it's appropriate. It's one of the key benefits, of course, of web-based training. One of the things we lost, though, over the years is the idea of social learning and the idea that people can benefit from each other's expertise, that people might want to network and connect with each other during the learning experience, and that really we all have some value and some expertise to add as we learn new activities. So one of the things that Publisher has reintroduced in this latest release is the ability to add in blogs and comments and really re-socialize the learning experience so that everyone has a voice at the table and everyone can contribute to their own development and the development of others through the sharing of that kind of expertise. So I'm going to start by adding a blog into this particular page. So here we are on a page within the course, and as you've seen with some of the other elements of Publisher, adding new items and new content to this page is reasonably straightforward. We just come up to the Insert menu, and then from here I'm going to go down to the Social Media main menu item and then pick Blog. You'll notice it dropped in a fully self-contained blog element, which I'm now just positioning around the page using simple arrow key placement. Of course, I can resize this. I can change things like the color of these elements. But I want to talk about some of the higher order things that you can do, which I think are really interesting. The first thing to know is the blog can take on multiple characteristics. So one option, as you can see here, is to have the blog be fed in from an external feed. So if what you want people to do is not necessarily share their own comment and perspective, but rather be kept up to date on ongoing changes within an industry, or to be kept up to date by other subject matter experts within the company, then you can feed an external blog directly onto this page and have it be dynamically updated every time the blogs are reposted, just like any other RSS feed. And you do that by just dropping in the actual feed code that you'd use in a Google Reader or NetVibes or in Outlook. You take that same exact blog feed and you just drop it right in here. You'll notice you can change things like, the footer notice and the date format. So these are sort of, high-level things that you can do to adjust the blog. Another choice you have, if you don't choose to have an external feed populate this blog, if you click on the Add Post button, then you can see you have some additional options. So these options allow you to control the extent to which an individual can contribute to the blog. So where it says approval required, if that's set to no, and you haven't set an external feed, then what that means effectively is that you have an open blog that any learner would be allowed to contribute to by adding a post. And so anyone therefore could come in here, click the Add Post button, be presented with a WYSIWYG editor, at which point they could then begin adding their own content and creating their own posts. So in a case where you want users to share best practices or to contribute their own ideas, maybe if you're doing like a system rollout, or if you're rolling out a new policy and procedure, and you don't just want to roll it out and dictate, but instead you also want to get some feedback, then having that open kind of blog technology is a mechanism that might make some sense. You'll notice also, of course, you can set the approval to be required, in which case there's a moderating interface, a moderation interface, that allows someone to approve blog posts before they get put into the system. So the combination here is either a completely shut down blog that can come in from an external expert, a partially moderated blog that could be allow submissions from learners, but then be moderated and approved before they actually go live. And then the third option is a completely open blog. So between those three options, you really provide a lot of flexibility in the way in which you might use social media and get that diversity of perspective, that shared expertise to find its way into that otherwise formal web-based training experience. So that's a little bit about blogs. Let's just spend another couple minutes here and we'll talk about comments. They sort of go together in the sense that they're kind of a similar approach in that blogs are open and solicit ideas, get you to solicit ideas from the learner population. Comments can kind of serve the same purpose. So what I'm going to do next here is insert a comment widget. And like blogs, the comments can be found underneath the social media main menu. And then, like the blogs, it can be repositioned either with your mouse or with the arrow keys. So I'm just moving this around with arrow keys at this point. And again, you have options here as far as whether approval is required, whether login's required. And just like in the blog capability, you can shut this down or you can leave this open. And so, think about how these technologies might be used in the span of a web-based training course. You roll out a new software application and you're looking for feedback about what people's current best practices are and how those best practices might change over time. Well, that might be a good candidate for a blog application embedded within a page. Maybe at the end of a chapter, you want people to share some perspective on how they might leverage what they've just learned back at their job. How might it change the way that they approach their job or the way that they approach their interactions with their colleagues? That might be a good candidate for a comment widget. We did a HIV/AIDS awareness training a few years ago, where hearing from the users, of the training and the learners, what their perspectives were really important in changing attitudes and changing perspectives. So that might be a great case where you turn on something like comments to get them to share a little bit more, but you might want to do that in an approved model where before the comments go live, someone has to moderate and approve them, given that it's a sensitive topic. So you can see how some of these things might be mixed and matched to provide maximum flexibility in blending together the formal experiences with the social experiences. So that's it for comments and blogs. We'll address in some future screencasts how to embed YouTube videos and how to do some interesting things with e-learning games.